it doesn't work. Oh, it's just for looks, so I do get shot.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my voice usually is like a boombox anyhow, so if you can't hear me, you can raise your hand. Anyhow, thank you so much for inviting us to be here. And in my looking for the opportunity to check in to make sure that we were on the program today, Carl Vertree's name came up on the screen, and I called him. And it made me realize, after looking at the wonderful presentation that you have online, that you just enjoyed your 80th birthday. Congratulations, 80 years. Well, a little fact that I want you to know is that the Senior Center then was organized 10 years later, and in 1949, with 29 interested community people, I'm not sure how many were seniors, the population was 2,956. The Senior Center was actually open, and it was called the Redmond Council for Senior Citizens, and that still is our official name today. Some of the facts about the Senior Center that I want you to be aware of is that we are not supported by a tax base. I think the city of Bend is quite fortunate that they have the opportunity to be supported by a tax base. None of your taxes go to support the senior citizen. And it's not operated by the city, and it's not operated right now by the Parks and Rec Board. So it's been ran these 70 years with volunteers from the community that are interested in seniors. As you know, I spent many years really interested in the youth of our community, and spent about 25 years with Boys and Girls Club, which now is REACH, and it's become very successful, and I'm really proud to say that I've been a part of that. But obvious, with retirement and age, I need to now transition into my interest being with the Senior Center in Redmond. How many of you have been to Senior Center? Oh, quite a few of you. That's great. How many of you know that haven't been here? Do you know the location? Okay, a couple, three. Okay. How many of you have had lunch there? Good. Well, I have a treat for you today. I have a free pass for lunch. So I want to welcome all of you to come pick one day and come and have lunch at the Senior Center. We have a new chef. She was trained in France. And I must say that the cuisine there is excellent. Not anything like you've probably experienced at a regular senior center, or thinking about the soup and sandwich lunches. Those no longer are the norm. So I would invite you to all come to that. One of the important things for you to know, and we are the only resource completely dedicated in the city of Redmond to seniors. And Forbes magazine, as you knew a year or so ago, recognized Redmond as the second fastest place for retirement in Oregon. So that means our senior center needs to be a very vibrant and interesting place for these people to come to. About a year and a half ago, I was there playing bridge, one of the many activities that we have. And the comment was made by our director that the Senior Citizen Center was going to close because of lack of funding. And I sat there and thought, oh my goodness, for one thing, where's my bridge group going to go? And thinking about the people that we serve, there's no way that we can let that senior center close. The people that we serve there, and the people that we serve that are housebound, with the partnership that has been a contractual relationship with Council on Aging, we are now serving 115 people at home their lunch every day. And this may be the only meal of the day that some of those people are getting. And we have about 35 to 50 people that are eating lunch. 60 and older can eat lunch free. Lunch for the 50 to 60-year-old group, or anyone that wants to contribute, is $6. Council on Aging only pays for about 75% of the actual cost of the meal. So as you can see, not only operating that most important feature, but being able to keep the building open, keeping someone there that can be staff, which right now we only have one staff person, and we've needed to form partnerships. So we have a memorandum of understanding that's being developed by Parks and Rec District, and they're going to provide us with additional programs they have need in the future for the use of our building. So they're developing more senior programs that will be available. One of those that I think is going to be there is called Silver and Fit, and Silver Sneakers is another one. And some of your insurance policies will actually pay for your membership to come to some of those programs. But about 18 months ago, when I realized that they were going to close, back to my bridge group thoughts here, I marched down the hall and said to the gal at the front of the desk, what can we do to make sure that this place stays open? Well, I didn't know it, but in the background, there was a wonderful person in our community that was interested in helping us with our future, and that's Teresa Hogue. You're going to hear a little bit more from her in a minute, but she was a driving force that put together a group of 9 of us, community leaders, people that had been in this community and in positions where they could influence how the organization was going to develop. And so we started out 18 months ago, and for a full year we met every month. And we've developed long-range business and financial plans for the next 5 to 10 years. These things are needed for us to be able to apply for any of the grants or any of the information that was needed so that we can actually become a viable entity. Some of the other memberships that we're developing is with St. Charles. We met yesterday with one of the physicians there, and he donated his time and his energy to come once a month to just meet with seniors casually at lunchtime. And we're going to develop some other programs that will give us the needs for the modern day senior. Seniors, in our definition, are anyone from 50 above. So the 40s, 50s, 60-year-old people, some of them actually are caregivers at this point. So some of our programs will be directed to them so that we can give them the support that they need. Some of the other partnerships we developed have been with the Oregon Community Foundation. We have the received from the city a community development block grant. We've met with the Central Oregon Health Council. Deschutes County has partnered with us, Neighbor Impact, and most recently, this last 6 months, Hospice of Redmond has developed a veterans lunch, and they offer a free lunch for veterans and their wives at the Senior Center on the 3rd Wednesday. I've been to a couple of those, and we have between 50 and 75 of those people coming in. They're all seniors, almost all of them that are there. So I think to maybe expand on some of the things I've talked about, I'd like to invite Teresa Hogue to come up and talk a little bit more about that. And then when she's done, I have some more interesting things I want to share with you. Thank you, Teresa.
Thanks, Joanne.
I'll be the first to say it wasn't me. It's Joanne and the team that have really moved us along. I don't know, I think from the introductions and knowing a few of you, lived here in Redmond long enough to the name Becky Johnson sound familiar? I had the privilege over the years working several times with Miss Becky. And for those of you that don't have had not the privilege of knowing Becky, I want to just tell you that I don't want to meet my maker someday and Becky be facing Becky and she said, why didn't you do anything with the Senior Center? Because she was instrumental in helping to get the building built that is there, that was built by the city, and is in large part why currently there is no debt load with the Senior Center. And that is very unusual these days, let alone that there's, as Joanne said, there's no tax base. Just a little bit about how did we get here, and more importantly, where are we going? When the senior center was started, there was less than 3,000 people in Redmond. And I just looked up the stats today, this morning again to reconfirm. Just in the city limits proper, it's reported about 31,000. So that's a 933% increase, right, Ms. Banker? Yeah, so I got the numbers right. Of that, 23% of those folks are 50 and older, technically the senior population. And so we're moving up close, and the projections, by the way, are soon it's going to be over a quarter of the population just in Redmond proper are going to be seniors. And meanwhile, back at the ranch, the senior center, the number of services and the kinds of services that are being offered that Joanne described to you are good, but in reality they're not matching up with what the need is out there that we know. And if we do a comparison on national level with high functioning senior centers, we've got some room to grow. So it caused us to start backing and looking what was the value base in 1949 when it was started, and what has carried it all this time. And I can tell you unequivocally it's tied to the community. Who owns the senior center is the community and the community members. And with what little we could look at back in history and say it isn't just the finances, it's a whole lot of other things. It has always been the community that has carried it along. The second thing that I think is really important about how it's been able to be sustained in spite of there's a huge demand right now for it to grow is because it took on more of an investment strategy rather than a spending strategy. Henceforth, like the building. The building was built. There is no debt load to that building. There's a wonderful partnership with the city of Redmond, and what they cover and what the senior center covers to keep that building operating and going. We have a wonderful contribution from a painter here that is painting the inside and the outside of the building and sprucing it up a little bit. There's a fair number of people that really have gone past the county hospital green that you find in a lot of places and want something a little bit more contemporary and uplifting. Which leads us to another contributing factor about why the senior center needs to go. We are all living longer. And as we live longer, we're living healthier and much more functioning, and we're contributing back into community. It's a very different profile than 70 years ago. So we've got to pay attention to that. What we also know about today in nonprofit world anyway, but it's particularly senior centers, in order to build that core sustainability financially, and also to help with awareness and understanding and engagement of the community. It's having anywhere from 3 to 8 core partnerships that are longer term. It isn't just for the next 6 months or whatnot. It's a pledge to take on a strong partnership. And they take on 3 things to make that happen successfully. One is to leverage the resources that are there. Second is they multiply the resources. So in fact, as Joanne said about the Park and Rec District, which does have a tax base, they're looking for places to expand their programs and services, and they're looking to engage seniors broader than what they have now. And coincidentally, the senior center is looking for more services and getting more seniors in, so it's a win-win-win. The third way is to create something that wouldn't be there unless there was the partnership. So those partnerships that Joanne just mentioned, St. Charles, the Park and Rec, and several others, we're looking to create something that isn't here today that really matches up with the wants and needs here in the community. The bottom line here for this to grow is really about stepping up. One of the things that we discovered in kind of canvassing the community, because there's been I think it's because there's such an influx of new people moving here. The majority didn't even know there was a senior center. And the senior center has been operating at low capacities. They haven't done a marketing or awareness. They haven't been to Kiwanis for a long, long time. And so we need to step that up and let people know that there is a senior center, and it's their senior center, even if you're not seniors. I had the privilege of caring for my mother in her later years, and I can tell you that it was key for me to shop around and see where my mom would be happy going and visiting and making new friends, because she moved here after my father passed away. So she was in a whole new environment. And I'm looking for that kind of resource to be here now for other people that make sure. And we're finding that people that we talk with that are looking after their parents or a neighbor or a loved one, they're looking for where can they meet and gather together. So we're seeing that there's a trend to be more leaning towards a community center where it's a high level of engagement. And that kind of overall provides you with our vision, and certainly we're open to always be revisiting that vision for the future for not only Redmond and the Redmond area. By the way, that's an important part. We're looking Terrebonne, Eagle Crest, Powell Butte, Crooked River Ranch. What did I forget? I think that's all.
Tumalo?
Well, yeah, Tumalo. That's where I live.
Towards Tumalo? I mean, that's right.
Yeah, but we were looking at the Redmond area because those areas are not being served by a senior center. So it's the Redmond area that we're encompassing, not just the city limits. Joanne, I'll turn it back over to you. We've got some exciting news.
Right. I think the thing that is one of the components that we really needed was to have an executive director at the community center that would be here for the long term and that would be willing and able to go out and make the senior center known for the areas of expertise and assistance that we can provide, and to be the local recreation center for the communities. And we've looked around, and I think we have been successful in finding someone that would meet all of the criteria. Her background is in television. Her background is with Chambers, both here and in Bend. Her background is serving on many communities, and actually looking at her resume, part of her degree was in gerontology. So did she fit exactly what we needed? Yes. I'd like you to welcome our new executive director, Jamie Christman.
I'll just keep it brief so you can have some Q&A. I'm delighted, I'm honored. It's a thrill, as you can imagine, to work with these women and others on this dream team. And it's exciting to see in my own community something like this get to that big picture, which we know you're all a part of, right? Our seniors bring the dignity, the core, the heart. At the end of the day, as you've already heard, 80's the new 60, 70's the new 50. If I just turned 50 12 days ago, well, that means I'm 30. I mean, this is great news for all of us. And so with that being said, I'm really looking forward to the partnerships. There have been a number on board. Just to clarify, for those of you that may or may not recall, when I met Joanne, she recruited me while I was in the middle of Seroptimus and had been asking her 100 questions. And finally she looked at me and said, you know, that's a great reason for you to get involved. And I've stayed involved almost all 20 years of living here in Central Oregon since then in some capacity. And the television that I was able to do, to be very clear, because some of you have been guests or been a part of it, was a community televised town hall program. And that brought every sector, partnership, style, kind, and creed to the table in this community. And I look forward to how we can draw that together, and really, like Teresa honed in on, it's your community center, so there's big exciting things ahead. So I look forward to that. So thank you for the big welcome today, and thank you to the two of you, because I feel like it's an honor to be back in my community and be doing this.
I just thought it was fitting to bring her here today, and we just realized that we can sit down this afternoon and probably negotiate the final contract with her, and that we could announce that, yes, we do have someone that's going to be directing us. And she's been helping in the background somewhat in discussions, and has helped Teresa and I and the Dream Team, and we've been developing funding strategies for the future. We've looked at the immediate, which is 3 months, and we needed to look at the fee structures and what we were actually charging for the use of the lovely building that the city provides for us. We looked at our membership rates, and then we looked at some of the grants that were there, and we've been able to obtain the grant from Oregon Community Development and the Community Development Block Grant. And both of those funds are going to pay for Jamie's salary, so that we can ensure that we can have her, and that she'll be free then to do the work for us that needs to be done. We're looking at several other trusts, Murdoch and some of those. We've been at the city groups. We've been at the Redmond Executive Association in Redmond, Rotary Club, both of them, and we are making some business contacts. For the next 6 to 9 months, then we are looking for more matching grants. With the leadership now that we have and the plans that have been developed by the Dream Team, we feel that we can offer sustainable services and ask for grant funding in that portion. The long term will be if we can forge this relationship with Redmond Parks and Rec. That's going to take some planning on both boards, and staffs are going to have to sit down at the table and see just exactly how we can get that organized. We talked at the Dream Team about plan giving, perhaps being able to develop an endowment fund, which I think would be an excellent way for us to be able to secure long-term funding and perhaps live off interest, which would be a wonderful thought if we could get to that point. But I think one of the key things that I would like all of you, your board and your membership, would be to consider becoming one of the senior centers long-term, 5 years, if you could do that, and we'd like to forge a partnership with you. We would like to become one of the places that your funds could be directed to help us with the day-to-day operations, to help us with the 20% of the Meals on Wheels that are not currently being funded by anyone. There's many areas that we can use your support, and there'd be many ways that you can support us. But if you would commit to a long-term partnership like that, I would really ask that you consider that. The other thing that's on your table is asking you if you're interested in becoming a member. And our memberships this year the fee has been raised to $50, and then of course there's other amounts that you can give. You can choose the payment schedule. On the back would be the credit card information and your general information, so we can stay in contact with you. But I would like each of you individually to consider this. We do have a program where businesses and individuals can support the daily meals, and that would be to sponsor the sit-down meals at the senior center itself. For $100 a month, you can sponsor a meal, and it would also get your name then on all of our programs and our newsletters and that sort of thing. So I know that's a big ask, but we need the community. We need all of you. I know an awful lot of you, and you've been here, and I know all of the wonderful programs that you have you've not only started, such as the swimming pool and some of those things, but the things that you've given us long-term. Sam Johnson Park, you mentioned the Johnsons. They're the reason I live here. Sam Johnson brought me to Redmond in 1979, and my heart's been here ever since. So I would ask all of you to consider and think about that long-term commitment. So I'm open for questions. Teresa and I, or Jamie, any of you have questions?
Any idea how many meals you provide a day, or for the Meals on Wheels?
Oh, for Meals on Wheels, it's about 120.
120, and you're covered 20% of that, or not covered?
80%.
80%.
Yeah, and then we have about 35 to 50 sit-down meals at the club itself. So those meals are subsidized somewhat by the Council on Aging.
The other piece that kind of ties with that, in addition to the lunch meals that are served on the site, right now, the stats tell us that about 13% of the seniors here live below the poverty level. And when this new census is conducted, we're expecting that that's probably going to be a higher percentage.
Other questions?
Yes.
Where are our Meals on Wheels being put together?
At the senior center,
Yeah.
in our kitchen, we actually have a commercial kitchen, and we're currently underway of updating everything. Our ovens, we have 5 ovens, 4 of them were broke, and we have many things that we're not operating, so we have been able to just recently secure some funding. It's not enough to cover everything that needs to be done, but we do have all of our ovens up and operating, and we're redoing and remodeling quite a bit of our kitchen, and we have to do that to be standard for the county that comes in, and
Thank you.
we need to be good with them. Yes.
How many people can you serve at the center itself?
I think it's the space limit there, and isn't it 110?
It's 110, so
Yeah.
probably to actually sit down and serve comfortably would be about 80, probably currently 80 or 90.
But that's assuming one meal. Some of senior centers across the country have a couple meals that they serve kind of in shifts. And again, it's how many people the fire department will let us seat in that room and how many but we could expand to go shifts.
Right.
Because I'll tell you that number of the population increase and what's being served today, it doesn't match. It's like this.
Yes.
Now, I wanted to comment on what is served. You keep calling it lunch. Most people wouldn't think of it as lunch. It's more like dinner.
It is 3, yes, yes.
And
Salad, main dish, and dessert, and fruit.
And it's increased in interest and exotic flavors and so on because of our new chef.
That new French
I don't
chef.
know how long we can keep her, but she's sure fun.
I know, so that's another reason. We need to keep her. And right now, she is so underpaid for the talent that she has that we're very concerned about keeping her too. But that's just all the more reason for us to go out and secure more community support. And you also, not only do I see you at lunch, but you play pickleball there.
After lunch, yes.
After lunch?
Mondays we have a
Right,
miniature pickleball court
Yes,
you can learn
right.
on.
right,
And go to larger ones and bend and so forth.
right,
if you wish.
yeah.
And I'd love to thank you for being a Meals on Wheels volunteer. That's huge. Thank you.
Yes, those 120 volunteers, that's what makes the whole program viable and makes us able to do that. Not only our kitchen, but those people that come and pick those meals up. And they go out in all kinds of weather. They pay their own gas costs. All they get are an occasional thank you. So you are really appreciated.
Thank you.
I will also say that the dedication overall is incredible. Joanne mentioned about fixing the ovens. That wonderful cook was coming to work at 4 a.m. in the morning because she only had one oven. To get all the stuff cooked, she had to do that. Now that we've got the ovens working, she can at least sleep until 6 in the morning. The same thing with this dream team. Everybody on that dream team has voluntarily come together and put a tremendous amount of work into it. Not just to fix those most immediate things that are needed, but to put that long-term vision together and a good strategic and business plan. So,
Good, thank you very much. Appreciate your We appreciate all that you folks do for the community. Leave you with a thought for the day. Again, this is Super Bowl weekend. From Vince Lombardi. Winning isn't everything, but wanting to is. Have a good day.